Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Happy Labor Day, everybody! This is the Simulationist podcast, iteration 52, September the 1st.
So, happy 1 year anniversary of Simulationists. Iteration? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, well, you know, what the conjugational,
we've been doing this for a year now.
Good dedication. We're not late by anything either. You know, if we had to, go someplace where we couldn't record at the proper time, we rescheduled to make sure it happened.
We're very proud of how well we've been able to keep up the schedule of weekly stuff, and we have big plans for the future. We want to continue to reach out to more people and have more people listen to us and improve on our, conversational skills. Which I should remind people, I am Josh Trelevin, as I always am, and
I'm Ryan Kirkby over on this side.
Ryan Kirkby is as he always is. He is himself.
Oh, I gotta be me. I mean, I could be
try one podcast where we switch.
I don't know if I can be you. On the other hand, if we're doing that, we got to have Kathy back.
Yeah,
because she has professional acting classes and lessons, and so she's actually got the mindset of being able to pick up another person's personality and run with that.
Okay, well, yeah, we got to have her, and we got to have some more other guests in the next year. Oh, it's going to be a fun year, 2013 to 14. We're going to have all kinds of cool stuff happen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But you'll have to wait, unless you're from, year 2 and you're looking back, in which case you don't have to wait at all, because you're in the benefit of being in the future.
Yeah, well, in the meantime, we have a fresh new episode, which you're beginning right now. We're already over a minute into, but here we are with another fresh episode. Let's start off with just catching up on what you've been up to.
Right? Last week, as soon as we were done, sort of thing, and we parted ways, I went back home. I started up Minecraft, and I did what I thought I was talking about last week. The whole create a new map and then just build a large tower up to the sky and then just start building like a black cloud of wool, and over top of that a paradise. And so I've started on that.
Yeah. Just
my luck, I get started in the tropical areas, and so there's so much more shade. It gets so much darker, and oh my goodness, it's just, I don't even have a bed yet because I don't have any sheep, so I gotta wait the entire night out as I hear zombies moaning and skeletons clacking around as I'm just down in a small pit with a bunch of chickens.
That sounds like typical Minecraft experience.
It's a start, but I was hoping to get a little bit more into it.
Well, I'll say this about Minecraft. You have lofty goals, and they often take a long time to, come to fruition.
I know I could have done it in creative, but I honestly do really like the sweat and toil. It means more to me.
I think so too. And I thought about playing a map in creative, and actually going and trying to create something really big and creative. The one thing that I think kind of stops me is that I feel like in survival each block has a cost. I feel like, therefore you can build with a lot of dirt or a lot of cobblestone or whatever because it has a certain cost.
Even if it's just dirt, it took the time, there's the threat of dangers in the area. Because, it might be sunny outside, but you never know when there's a skeleton under the tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Until you turn the corner and thwack! You take one to the kidneys.
Yeah, and so if you can just build a house out of diamonds, it's like, what's... I don't know.
Sure, that's great, cheap. I suppose, but you never earned that house made out of diamonds.
That's what I feel about survival.
Speaking of which, though, just going back to turning the corner and getting an arrow in the gut, Why can't you keep the arrows that get shot into you?
I wish you could too. Yeah, there's just a game rule that's I don't know why they have it that way.
I would like to get like, oh hey, it's skeletons. I hate fighting them, but you know what? If I get hurt a little bit, I get more arrows out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
even if it's only a 50% rate, say like half of them break off improperly and you're stuck with like arrow bits in you.
Yeah. Well, it might be considered overpowered. I couldn't say like why for sure, but I think it might be overpowered. You might be able to exploit it somehow if you just keep the skeleton, like trap him in a little, I don't know, like a thing that he can't jump out of with a block over his head, but he can see you. So he's like shooting arrows, and basically you get infinite arrows.
Yeah, but you got to wait for him to shoot you. You lose the health. Then you got to go out and... Okay, well, how about this? Instead, if you get shot with an arrow, you move a little bit slower. Because you've got an arrow in you.
Yeah, well, that would make sense. And, well, the other thing that they could do is skeletons could just have a limited number of arrows. I mean, that's...
Boy, that would be nice, too, wouldn't it? I have to worry about arrows, but even with their unenchanted bows, the skeleton's got an infinite amount.
Yeah, that's true. And then, like, if he ran out of arrows, he'd have to come up and, like, try and melee you.
I would really dig that. That sounds nice, yeah. So, yeah, if you're from Mojang and you're listening, there's an idea for you.
Yeah, among all the... I mean, it's funny because everybody is bugging Mojang about adding this, adding that. So, I mean... And that's good because it means we're all enthusiastic about the game, but it's very hard to get an idea through.
Well, that's it. I mean, they have made it. I mean, horses got into the game. They're doing some other stuff that apparently is being taken from modders' work.
Yeah, they do.
Or at least derived from modders' work. They put their own finishing touches, make sure they get rid of any potential errors, and incorporate it fully into the game.
Yeah, well, the other thing, I mean, it's hard to implement almost any feature now that's like, a new animal or a new rule that hasn't already been done by at least somebody in a mod.
That said, I do believe our, biome was pretty darn unique, so...
I think that'd be a good mod. Like, I think people would enjoy that.
It's ambitious, and I think it's got just enough creepiness in the as a concept.
I think it's got plenty of creepiness. I don't know.
That's something that people remember. That's the stuff that, once the people get, they make sure every time, it updates, they get it.
Yeah.
Always the highest end version. So. But yeah, so I went on that. I didn't get too much done because I'm trying not to die. I did do some dying testing to find out exactly where the spawn point was, and I've been working out from there.
Okay.
Clearing the trees. I got a lot of wood right now. Clearing out the trees and just making myself a nice 40 by 40 area that'll wind up being a giant pit down to the bottom.
Oh yeah. Because you want them to spawn at the bottom.
I want them to work their way out of a pit and go into the dark black lands, and maybe if they can earn their way up to Utopia.
So this, I wonder, like, do you think you might put this map once you get it to sort of how you want it? Do you want to put it up for download for something?
I think I might do that if I figure this looks good enough for me. I can proudly say this is something I give out to everybody.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I found with like my current map, I wanted to upload my Let's Play world, like so people could play on it, but there's not a file sharing service like Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever. My map is like 600 megabytes, I think.
See, that's what I like about Dwarf Fortress. It's much smaller, and there actually is a dedicated area for just hosting files for you to download regarding Dwarf Fortress.
Yeah, they can do that because the files are small. But this particular map
I can play Dwarf Fortress and have a couple saved games on my zip drive, and I think that's something like a nice notable feature. Not just a small. That's an actual feature.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
That said, there's no computer on Earth that can ever run Dwarf Fortress as well as they would like it to. It's not threaded for multiple cores.
I see.
It all goes through the one. So even if you've got quad-core processors, no, it's using one. You can use the other three for whatever. The other one for running your operating system, and two more for, I don't know, SETI at home if you want.
Minecraft works the same way. I think it only uses one processor because I've seen people suggest before that, you should use more processors, or you should use multi-processors. That
said, it basically requires a workup from the ground, from what I've been told on almost any game. got to start from scratch again.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
Also,
that part of it, yeah.
It's a little bit different. The amount of creatures you have in Minecraft that have to do path tracking, as opposed to every time someone moves, every tick of time, the destination is determined for every creature on the map, which dwarves alone can go up to 300. There's 300 path findings every second.
Wow.
It tests computers. I mean, that's not including the animals. You can have a lot of animals. You can have the beasts. You can have an invading army of hundreds themselves. Things slow down.
I like this idea of video games that the thing that it's not the graphics that slow it down, but it's the actual the gameplay mechanics.
That said, I mean, it's only the one guy doing the coding, so every once in a while he goes back to what he's done now that he's so much more experienced and knows what to do, and cleans up the code a lot, makes it a lot more simplistic, and it runs faster on that end. That's it. I mean, heck, the temperature calculations alone in the game can slow it down. For a while, there were people pumping magma up from the depths of the world and using that for whatever the heck they want to use it for. You know, it's like, no, I don't want to trade with you this year. Magma on the elves.
Yeah.
Because they feel like it. But it was taking up a lot of processing power, because every time the pumps were operating, it would go from full area full of magma and then work out the heat for every square around it. And then no magma, work out the heat for every temperature around it. And so that caused a lot of calculations per second. That said, somebody recently managed to figure out a different way. Instead of making it just a 1 by 1 square for where the magma's pumping, you change that around, and then the temperatures around will still have magma in them, and then they won't need to be recalculated. They were able to get 30 more frames per second on some pump stacks that way. So, yeah, depending, how complex you want your designs, it can really slow you down in the game. Mm-hmm. Or you can just go into the init files and, oh, hey, temperature, no. And then you don't have to worry about it recalculating temperature. That said, ice will never melt, water will never freeze, no matter where you are.
Okay, so that's something for them to work on.
Well, it's an actual feature of turning the temperature off.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's just meant, okay, no, this is the temperature it's at right now. No, nothing changes. It's always this cold. It's always this warm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's for those people who want to make sure that, they don't have to do so much for computing power. Just how it goes. But yes, other than that, not too much this week. It's been a busy week at work, so I've been fairly depleted of my energy levels.
Sure. And
I do find time to read another 100 pages in my book that I'm going through. And I'm in the last stretch. It's like 3-4 more chapters, and I'm done book 4 of The Wheel of Time.
Do you have book 5 all ready to go?
I might. I have many thousands of pages of reading all over the place here, and I don't have any one reading stack, so I'd have to double check.
Okay.
That said, I've got enough other stuff to read. I can always put it down for a little bit and start on something else.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
I recently found a copy of Monty Cook's The Book of Hallowed Might, so I sit down, maybe spend a couple nights reading that.
I like that one. That one's a fairly short one, so it should be easy to get through.
If it's quick enough and I like it enough, I might go back to the used bookstore and get the second book of Hallowed Might, because that one's a bit thicker. But I only got the one, because, hey, maybe I like this, maybe it's not for me.
Yeah. Well, and it's also rules content, so sometimes you can sort of skip. Although, I like reading kind of every spell in order, just so you get a feel of them.
I find with Monty Cook's work, he's very precise on things. So it does pay attention to, instead of just skimming everything, okay, this class here, this prestige class, it has these skills. And then you look at which skills he gave it, and there's always a reason. And you can better understand the class, the prestige class or whatever it's going for, by looking at what skills are being given. And so by looking, I find to get more out of it. I find the nuances that he makes, because he's a guy who does nuances.
That's good, yeah. Because, I've read prestige classes where it's like, they have this, and this skill. And I'm like, really? Why would they have that? And then, if you think about it, you're like, well, okay, they're, throw in a flavor explanation because this order likes to swim, and for some reason they consider that sacred. And then, okay, well, that's why this cleric class can swim, apparently.
Well, yeah, I mean, if their divine patron has water, for them, then maybe they should be able to swim.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because he is a person that goes on the little things, I slow down. If this was something by Mongoose Publishing, I'd more browse it. More use it as just a basic resource for my own ideas. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't use a lot of their rules for Mongoose Publishing, but it does give me an idea for my own stuff, so I'll use it as a bit of a base as I manipulate it to stuff. And okay, this is what I want, and this is what I think works better for the other stuff I'm using, and there we go. It's a platform to launch off of, so reading more in depth is not exactly required. I just need the ideas.
Now, the Book of Hallowed Might, did that have angels in it? I think it did.
I believe it does, yes.
Yeah.
Less standardized angels.
Or like, maybe they weren't angels, but they were like blessed spirits or something like that? Yeah.
Nice, more generic terms so that you don't have to feel like, oh, this good religion has angels too. That must mean it's like an XP of Catholicism.
Yeah.
So
I always have trouble, though, because I really like seeing the good guys, the good side represented in monster books. I really enjoy reading it. But when it comes to the actual gameplay, you don't use them as much because you use the bad guys.
I have seen that. That said, if you portray it as a theme within the campaign that good is not unified, you can't have celestial creatures fighting one another.
Okay.
And the heroes might have, consider this. Demons are pretty foul creatures. The worst human being on the prime material planes is nothing compared to the depredations of the immortal fiends.
Okay, yeah.
And so it works the other way for the angels. And the garden elves and all that. No matter how good a person like your paladin is, they are nothing compared to the sanctious, might of the angels. So it could just be that your paladin may be the holiest of holies on the prime plane, but you know what? No, he doesn't even have the right to touch the solar. You keep away from him. Your filthy mortal hands disgust me. I don't even want you to touch. Don't even look at me.
Okay.
And so that way, if you portray it as a less unified whole, and reminding the players that, yeah, you're good, but you're still just mortal good.
Yeah, and the angels can be almost like a force of, well, I want to say nature, but maybe supernature, or, kind of a very...
They're a theological force of benevolence, even if it's a martial benevolence. Yeah. Beneficence maybe fits a little bit better. They're willing to throw one person under the train if it saves 100. Which might be a very interesting thing to bring up for the lawful good outsiders.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, but if, according to the prophecies, if you survive, hundreds will die. I have to kill you now, despite the fact you're good. And then it's like, that adds wrinkles to the campaign.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I don't know if that would be my style, but yeah, I think that's one way to use them for sure.
And then when in doubt, you just add the half-fiend template. They're a fallen, whatever.
Okay, yeah, fallen version.
So there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So that was
a nice little tangent, yes. But how about you, Josh, this week? What have you been up to?
Well, a couple things. I've been reading, I guess this isn't really simulation, but I was reading a nonfiction book. It's called Zealot by Reza Aslan. I think that's his name. It's a story about, it's not a story, it's a, what is it? It's about Jesus, like Jesus, the Christian Jesus.
That nice young man from Nazareth.
A nice young guy. Yeah, and it's sort of a historical account of his life. And I was just, I don't know how it applies to simulations, but it shows the difference between sort of, there's a lot of things that we believe about or that we think about Jesus, and then what, sort of, he tries to get at what actually, like, as, what they can figure out. It's very difficult, obviously.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of bad preconceptions about Jesus for a lot of people. He's not 6 feet tall, most likely didn't have the light sandy blonde hair that people keep portraying him with.
Yeah,
he was not Anglo.
That's one thing. Yeah, he was definitely Jewish.
Although that said, I mean, the whole concept of black Jesus is a nice way of saying, no, it doesn't matter what he was. For you, yes, you can see him as black. That doesn't change who he is. For you guys up over there in, northwestern Europe, he was, an Anglo. That's good to present him as a. Just make sure you don't hold on to it too tight and say to another person, he can't be this ethnicity. He has to be my ethnicity. Otherwise, he doesn't count.
Yeah, well,
because throughout history, that has been a problem.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that comes up in this book is that early in the church, like not long after Jesus was killed, early in the church, there was basically a schism between the kind of Greek-speaking Christians who were basically sort of Jews. I mean, they were Jewish by background, and they still believed in like Judaism and stuff. But they spoke Greek, and they were culturally basically part of the Mediterranean Roman Empire kind of deal. And then there was the more Jewish Jews from like Jerusalem, and some of them became Christians. So they had a schism between the Jewish. Well, they called them Jews and Greeks, but really they weren't Greeks; they're Greek Jews. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, there was this whole
I suppose you can call it Western Christianity and Eastern Christianity at the time because it didn't go much further beyond that.
You probably could. I mean, because the Greek-speaking Jews would have lived west of, in the western parts of the Mediterranean,
or where where the following of Jesus had been.
Yeah, but it's a different, obviously a few hundred years later, there was another East-West schism.
Yeah.
Between Rome and Greece, because there was like a Roman church and a Greek Orthodox church. But that was later. So I mean, there's always these. It's funny how it even survives as a singular thing going on because.
Depending who you ask, it's not.
Yeah.
But you ask some outsider people and go, no, it's all basically the same religion. They've just transferred some names around.
Yeah. So anyways, that I've been reading that. I've been just, history is always fun.
And so he tries to keep it as close to the actual events. He's not and then Jesus walked in, and then he was doing stuff like this. So it's not like a fictional account of a historical character.
Right. Well, the book is written as, history. It's like you're reading your history textbook or whatever. He's writing for a modern audience about, this is who Jesus probably actually was, and this is what probably actually happened, but this other thing probably didn't happen. And stuff like, the miracles obviously probably didn't happen because, miracles.
The whole bit about him walking on water during the storm was likely allegorical. It makes for a very nice symbolic story. That's it. If he actually did walk on water, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's just kind of an awesome power. I don't know if it qualifies as a superpower, but it's pretty awesome by any standard. Especially because, his followers were fishermen, so I mean, the amount of supplies that could save a person alone is just so economical.
Have a boat, although I guess you'd have to put the fish somewhere.
Well, you carry a bag over your shoulder. When you're done fishing, you just sit up from where you are and your bag of fish, and you walk back to shore. And that's why it was likely allegorical, because there wasn't stories about it's they called out to Jesus, and he was sitting out in the middle of the lake, and he was fishing. And he says, "What?" He said, "Hey, we need you to tell some more stories." He's like, "Okay, 5 minutes. The fish are biting right now."
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you would have expected, that there would have been a whole industry popped up of Christians who, got Jesus' power and were able to walk on water and go fishing.
Which actually might be a very entertaining historical fiction.
Yeah.
If the powers of Jesus were the mark of a true worshipper, and then all of a sudden you had the people whose sole thing was to get a loaf of bread once a day, and then they just split it and made sure everyone could have bread, and they were just like the food givers of Christianity.
Oh, I like
and how that would wind up changing, the land around them. Because you got all the food you want.
Yeah.
For bread, if you want fishes, you just go talk to the guy who's walking on the water.
Yeah, and this is another thing I read in the book Zealot by Reza Aslan, is that at the time, almost throughout history, there's been starving people, but at the time it was particularly bad in that region because there was famines and there was droughts, but there was also the fact that the Roman Empire had taken over in Jerusalem, and the people that they put in charge there were taxing the peasants out in the countryside, and so they didn't have food. So that was a major deal for Jesus and all them, was that food, fish, bread, those things are super important for them.
Sometimes I really do wish I was a better author, or at least had enough time to become one, because that could make for a very interesting story.
Yeah, it would. Hey, it would be kind of cool if, like, you had turning to D&D, like applying this to the world, or basically creating.
I do like to try and apply some of that stuff, because there is a lot of biblical abilities, especially in some of the older D&D books.
It would be kind of cool if you had like a village of people, or maybe like a sect, or a monastery full of servants of some religion that had the supernatural power just to walk on water, at will, kind of deal.
Well, it could be a thing if, as we talked earlier, if your god has like water in their portfolio, maybe swim should be a class skill. On the other hand, what if it's a domain ability? You take water as one of your 2 chosen domains, and congratulations, you can walk on it. Anything beyond a light load and you sink, but other than that, you can just walk on water.
And I think that'd be good. I wonder I guess you'd have to check if it's balanced and everything. It seems balanced to me. It doesn't seem like too powerful.
They can only walk. They're not allowed to run. They got to make just a base speed. That's it, man. That's all you can move per round.
And there's something about Peter when he like stop looking at Jesus. I think that's what it was. He had to look at Jesus because he walked on water too, right? But I think he had to like do a certain thing because he started sinking, or he lost faith or something, and he started sinking. But then he got his faith back, and he was able to walk again.
So, wait, did they describe how it happened? Like, did he start sinking in like the water was jello, or did he just plunk all of a sudden like somebody was at like one of those carnival attractions? Oh, hey, you hit the bullseye, and they got dunked in the tank.
I think it doesn't go into detail about how exactly he fell in, but I think it says something like he started to sink or something. So my impression, just on the English version, obviously,
kind of like a jello-y thing, then,
is that he's very slowly, like he's walking. I'm walking. Oh no, it's getting higher. It's up to my knees now. Oh, it's up to my waist. Oh, that's cold.
See, that's the thing. Is that's a much better presentation, because it occurred to me, if he like sinks all of a sudden, you lose anything other than absolute faith and you go down, and all of a sudden he believes in Jesus again, and no, wait, the water's solid life for him, and he's stuck underneath there, and that gets horrific.
I can't not believe.
I have to forsake you just to get my head above water.
Yeah.
So I think the sinking might wind up being the best way to tell it without it going a really dark, like scary way.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I don't know if he would have been able to swim. It's possible.
You could probably tread water for a little bit, but not. It's not like they're trained at it. It's not like they've spent time at the pool. Like learning the proper lessons when as a kid.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you read about historical accounts, and they say about like sailors and mariners and pirates and stuff. They say that, generally speaking, pirates couldn't swim. Sailors couldn't swim.
They could tread the water for a little bit, but there was no lessons. Which, let's face it, if that's something you should probably do. He's like, you know what? Yeah. We're dead sails today, so we're not actually moving anywhere, but we're going to make the best of this ability in this situation. We're going to put you out in the water. We're going to do some swimming lessons right now, and it's a bonus that qualifies as your bath for this week.
I wonder if they would accept that.
Well, what else are they going to do? I mean, that's how you go stir crazy out there, apparently. Sometimes you're just waiting for weeks with no wind, and it's just like you're sitting there under the baking sun. Dude, learn to swim, and then every time it becomes dead, cannonball into the water, and then, you're relaxing. Hey, the wind's picking up. Okay, everybody get back up on ship. We're back to work.
Well, as long as you had water to drink, I think that'd be fine. I think it dries you out a bit, though, if you swim too much in salt water.
Oh, that's right. They didn't have the proper desalinization techniques.
But I guess they would have water on the ship and whatever. I think if it was me, because I know how to swim, because I had swimming lessons when I was a kid, I'd be like, yeah, I'm in.
I would love to dive off the side. They could have fun with it. It's like, okay, it's your turn to walk the plank. Do a half gainer on your way down.
Can you imagine, like, some of those ships with those huge masts? Like, you could get way up there and have a super extreme dive.
Oh, you really want to make sure you know what you're doing. Get yourself on those nice tops of the sails and just go for a run. You don't want to hit the deck.
Don't hit the rigging on the way down.
Yeah. Humorous, but probably ultimately bad.
Well, he accidentally hung himself. Oh well.
Well, we'll leave him up there for a couple more days. That'll be a good lesson to the rest of the sailors.
No, but I think some of them were definitely afraid of the water, so there was that. But
mind you, a lot of the times when they were involved with the water, there was blood in the water, and that gets sharks attracted to the whole thing.
Yeah, you
apparently.
Well, you don't want to fall overboard, especially if the ship is moving fairly quickly. Cause
you get left behind.
They might not find you again.
They might not want to come back. You know what? The sails and the wind are going so good right now. Did he owe anybody money? Okay, we're going on then. And that's why you always owe somebody about $20. That way they'll vouch for you to turn the ship around and come pick you up.
Yeah, and if the waves are like high and stuff, they might not be able to see you behind all the waves.
Oh yeah. So yes, moral of the story: it pays to learn how to swim, even in fantasy settings, because a lot can happen.
Yeah.
But yes, so this monastery people, they'd only be able to walk, and it'll require like concentration. They can't do spell casting.
Oh yeah, I think that's probably how you do it. I mean, yeah, it depends. Depends how you want to balance it, but that makes sense to me, anyways. So, yeah, you got to concentrate.
And God help you if somebody starts spouting blasphemies at you. You start losing faith for even a second, and I will invoke the no, you sink, and then when you get your faith back, it's solid.
I like that. Well, I mean, that's a horrible thought, but
it does create a nice mental image, does it not?
Yeah, and ironic too. And you get to the afterlife, they're like, really?
I believed in them too much, even after I was underneath the water. I just had the moment of doubt. That's why they only call it a moment of doubt. Tell you what, is this reincarnation thing an option? Can I get like a mulligan on this one, and I come back again? But yes, that would make for an interesting, at least like a foreign sort of style priest.
Yeah.
They're on just that nice small, like secluded island. How do they get to the shore, the mainland? Well, they just walk when the water's calm, man. When the water's choppy, they don't like doing it because that's too much like going up over craggy hills and all that. With the actual land, well, especially with the whole land, like effectively moving underneath you.
Yeah. So I read it.
On the other hand, maybe it'd just be easier for them to learn how to surf.
Yeah.
That could be kind of awesome. Surfing priests in D&D.
Well, have you seen the people around? It seems to have gotten really popular now. There's like, you stand on a surfboard and you have a paddle and what is it called, standing board or something?
I haven't seen too much of that.
They have them around our area, around Victoria. They have not too many, but you'll see a guy paddling around the harbor.
Well, here's the thing: is why don't they sit down and then they can put their legs in an enclosed space and then they can just call it kayaking?
Well, people do that too.
Hey, there we go.
I don't know. Yeah.
Why are you standing on that, man? You can sit down for this. You can effectively lean back when you're doing the kayaking. It's real good stuff. It's the equivalent of the exercycle, ergonomic design.
Yeah. I guess. Well, it might feel confined, but actually, if you get good at kayaking, you can be very maneuverable, with yourself in the kayak. So you don't even need to think about it as confining because the kayak becomes an extension of your body.
Yes, my uncle kayaks, and that's pretty much exactly what he is. You put him in there, and it's just no different for him. He's so maneuverable. It's just like, you put me in there, I got no clue.
Yeah,
I'd
like
so
to
many
learn
hours
how
practice.
To do it. Yeah.
Well, you never know when you can find like classes for that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think they have.
There might be a damage deposit to put down on there, but you'd probably get that back at the end of the class unless you sink a kayak.
Yeah. Well, they're pretty easy to get back up, I think. I mean, they're not
unless
too heavy.
You've cracked a nasty hole in the side.
Yeah. Well, what are you doing with your kayak if you can't crack a big hole?
Well, that's the thing, is if you don't know what you're doing with your kayak, there's your answer.
Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing, so I
accidentally
grabbed this iron pole and jabbed it in.
I thought I was turning clockwise, but I actually went counterclockwise, and I just rammed it into one of the pier studs. And time makes fools of us all.
Yeah.
So yes, there's some nice ideas for nice watery priests in your campaign, if nothing else.
Yeah. So I read the book, and then the other thing I did was I reskinned dispensers in Minecraft. I reskinned them, and
what do they look like now?
They're gold now, and so they're more expensive. So I don't know if I added it to my mod that people can download. So I don't know if it probably will make it less popular because people are like, "What? It's more expensive.
I want cheap stuff now."
But hopefully it's more interesting because I like that. Because before, what dispensers, they were the same texture. They looked very much like furnaces, basically.
Yes, I did notice that.
So I was like, well, I think they should look a little different and act and sort of cost gold instead. So That's what I did.
Well, they're used often enough as the equivalent of fridges. Fridges use electricity, so they're expensive. Yeah, there's your expense.
Yeah, so I was happy with that. I need to work on doing better textures. I'm still.
Well, that's what you're doing right now. Is you're working on it. You're looking at it and you're picking up the little lessons as to what works on a larger scale.
So that's what I did in that. So that covers me. Do we have? Let's see. Moving on to another topic, sort of a half conspiracy thing that we were going to talk about.
Yes, as having a conversation with somebody, heated a little bit, but a conversation nonetheless. And it got into the difference between what the President of America can do for with troop issuing, because the President of America, for those of you out there who aren't part of America or just are in America and don't bother to learn, he's the Commander-in-Chief, or she, because, future might be a female president.
Right.
They are Commander-in-Chief, and that marks them as the pinnacle height of the United States Armed Forces.
Sure, yeah.
And as such, they have the ability to, control troops. But, according to the Constitution, and something they passed in 1973 of debatable value, only Congress can declare war. If the President wants to declare war, has to get permission from Congress on the whole thing.
Yes.
That's it. Sending a decent amount of troops anywhere, you probably want to, get congressional approval on this sort of thing. Otherwise, the troops are doing stuff out there, but you can wind up with this whole, political quagmire back home.
And I could be wrong about this because I keep hearing, but I think the last time the U.S. officially declared war was World War II.
And that's the fun thing about it, with the whole, the value of declaring war. You can do a lot of stuff and just not declare war. Okay. There was a quasi-war with France for 4 years where things were just really tight and everybody was just, like picking at each other and firing shots because, it's like, we can get away with it right now. So, but nobody declared war. It was just very full of ill will between the two nations.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like brothers, like, I'm not touching you. Just
with BB guns, nothing big and serious. Nobody was dropping bombs or anything.
Yeah,
but they were shooting pot shots at each other.
Yeah, so that works. Yeah, for conspiracies, you could have entire secret wars or.
Well, so that's the thing is, as it stands, is the president can send off troops for 2 months, 3 months if you want to include a withdrawal of the troops, and only have to give Congress 48 hours notice. Doesn't need their approval. He says, I'm sending troops here. They'll be there for 2 months, and then it'll take another month for them to leave. And, they're starting in 2 days from now.
Huh.
And Congress can raise heck about that. They can go all fire and brimstone, filibusters everywhere. Can't stop them.
Right. They don't have the legal power to.
Well, that's the thing is the War Measures Act they signed in 1973 has very debatable constitutionality behind it.
Oh, I see.
So there's some things about what the president can and cannot do, because that one that was signed in 73 has caused a lot of problems. No sitting president has declared it to be anything of worth, and most say it's unconstitutional. And there's been no problem for breaking it. Clinton broke it in the 90s. And Congress admonished him for that. And aside from a stern finger wagging and a lot of boring people talking at him, there was no punishment. Ronald Reagan in the 80s had the Iran-Contra scandal, where he sent troops out for longer than the so many days. It didn't ask for congressional approval. He just sent them out, and then they did that. They did the arms sales and all that. He didn't get impeached. There was nothing wrong with it. Political quagmire back home for a while, but Reagan just basically shrugged it off. Because there's no power to it. It's a hollow law. But so there's a nice situation that you can show for real life of a good conspiracy. Just because they haven't declared a war, just because there's no congressional approval, doesn't mean there isn't something happening in the background. And there can be a difference between military action and declaring war.
Sure, yeah.
Especially because on the Constitution, it states part of the thing is what the can and cannot do for congressional abilities is Only Congress can declare war and do the marks of like a retort or intent, and take land or water.
Okay.
There's no mention about taking the air above, because how can you take air? This is the 1800s.
Yeah.
A plane for air, like some sort of air boat, that doesn't exist. And so they never decide to put it into the Constitution, which is why you can have so much easier time with, say, no, we're maintaining air dominance here. It's a no-fly zone in this part.
Yeah, but it's technically not war. Well, it's sort of. There are things that they call acts of war, but I guess that's an entirely different legal framework
from taking the air above. It's not part of what Congress is allowed to do for their war measures and war clauses.
Yeah.
And so you can circumvent that on a legal scale by having the president just say, we didn't take any land, we didn't take any water, we just took the air, and that's not covered under the Constitution, so scot-free.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Legally scot-free.
Legally, according to U.S. laws, scot-free. Of course, there's also international law, which I guess technically, like, nations don't necessarily have to follow international law because they're like, what? Our law is our law. But, of course, if you don't follow international law, well...
You wind up making political enemies, and then it's harder to, get the free trade agreements going through.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're, if you're a bad offender like North Korea or... whatever, then yeah.
The rest of the world makes fun of you on the internet.
I guess that's all they do.
Honestly, there's a lot of hollow laws.
They starve your people that you don't care about anyways.
Ooh. And then I never understood that. I mean, it's not like North Korea is a desert. I mean, can't you make room for more farmland to, and get some more people to pick up some farming and make sure there's enough food to feed everybody? Is it really that difficult? Are there logistics I'm not seeing here?
Well, no, I think the problem is, just because the government is so corrupt that they, anytime someone tries to be like, oh, well, let's make, we have this nice land over here, let's farm it or whatever and feed the peasants, and then it just gets caught up in the whatever red tape they have or whatever corruption.
So that's the thing, it's red tape and corruption, but if there's one thing I've learned time after time from reading history, it's that if you cannot keep the people fed, you're going to become in trouble soon.
Yeah.
And that's just basically how it works, is hungry people are revolting people. Or if they're not, they're pretty darn close. They're much further away than contented people becoming revolting people.
Yeah, that's true. I don't really understand about North Korea because...
And it's not just North Korea. This has happened in a number of times throughout history. Yeah. Just like, oh, no, we're working on this. And food? We'll worry about food later.
Well, but on the other hand, you say, yeah, poor people or hungry people will revolt. But the other thing is hungry people don't fight very well. And hungry and poor people don't have very good weapons.
On the other hand, they do have numbers.
They can, but they might not have the organization to get them all...
No, but they can cause enough havoc that communication stuff can break down.
I suppose, and well,
it is harder now than it used to be.
This is why, well, to talk more about political science and international stuff, but this is why revolutions have happened recently in the Middle East, is because they've got access to communications.
Oh yeah.
So the people who are discontented, who couldn't unite and couldn't organize before.
Say, keep out of this area. Police are gas bombing. Yeah. Retweet, please, thanks.
They can avoid the police. They can mass in a place where there's no police. They can.
And the best point is that when they're all doing this sort of thing, there is no head. There doesn't need to be a head for coordinating it. So you can't just, okay, we got a sniper out, we took the one guy down. Now there are just a bunch of chaotic protesters. No, they're just as bad as ever, because everyone's checking the tweets, and then there's just no central body.
Yeah.
And that's kind of groovy that way.
I like it, and I like it for many reasons, but it's also a little bit scary too, because it's like, what if the mob decides to do something bad? And sometimes they do.
That's why mobs have mob violence. Yeah.
But I think what it does is it holds the governments accountable, because if they starve people or keep people unemployed or oppress people, they're going to have consequences now.
And that's always nice, knowing that there's consequences to actions.
Well, and hopefully, as I always say, the world is hopefully improving in that way. We got a long way to go, but
we've got some much higher yield crops than we used to. That's always nice.
Yeah, that's true. And science does a lot of things for us. So.
Not every day, but slowly. We're expanding the borders of what we can and cannot do with the amount of land we have. So, hooray!
Yeah. And then one day we'll go to Mars, and we'll settle on Mars, and we'll have, like, farms.
See, now here's the thing with the whole Mars thing that's set to go off in, 10 years from now? Why didn't they start, okay, first things first, we're going to make a settlement on the moon. Because if something goes wrong, it's so much closer.
Is there not a plan for I thought there was a plan for a settlement on the moon.
It's not getting as much press or publicity as it is, we're going to Mars, man. It's like, no. Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand Mars is a little easier because the particles are worn down and smooth. If you go to the moon, they're all sharp-edged still, and so it's like everything is just like a sea of broken glass shards.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucks. But if something goes wrong, the chances of saving somebody are so much higher. Still small, but so much higher, so much better. And let's face it, there's not a several-minute delay, so if you need to find instructions for, how do we make, another oxygen breather? Because we kind of need it. 3 minutes later, when it gets to Earth, and they're like, okay, they got the tools for this is how they do it.
Yeah, like in the movie Apollo 13.
Exactly. And that's only about a second or a second and a half delay there. They're so much closer that they don't have to worry about it so bad because the delays get nasty when you're out in space. The distances are great, and most people don't realize that. Pay attention to the news sometime. When they're talking to a correspondent over in another nation, they ask them a question, count the time before that guy responds. So, how are things going over there, Tom? 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's looking pretty bad here, Jim. There's a 3-second delay sometimes, and that's because of the distance between the locations.
Yeah. Well,
people don't realize that. Everyone keeps thinking we're living in the future, instant technology, instant communications. No, it's still finite speeds.
Is the other side of the planet a matter of light seconds away, or is it just the fact that it has to get relayed through satellites and computer systems?
It goes relayed through computer systems and satellites, and that takes a little bit more than it would if you were to say have a direct cable like fiber optic line going through.
Okay, yeah.
That's only until we get enough fiber optic cable laid everywhere over the Earth that we can do that. Mm-hmm. We're working on it. Slowly.
Yeah.
Slowly. But it's something.
So,
tangents upon tangents upon tangents.
Yes. So
the book about Jesus, you liking it?
Well, it was great. I recommend everybody. Well, I mean, if you like... No, I'll tell you about the book about Jesus. It is very readable. It's very conversational. It's not like a dry history book. It's exciting. At least I found it exciting, and it's exciting, and it's a bit nerdy.
It's not dry like a textbook.
And
for a lot of historical characters, that's the best you can really say about anything about them.
Because it's funny, when I first picked it up, I thought, well, I am interested in the subject, but I'm not so sure if I want to just read a whole book about, one guy 2,000 years ago, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure if I want to. But this Reza Aslan guy, he's a really good writer.
Very nice, very nice.
Very readable, so.
So, you can put that as a quote on the book cover? He's a very good guy, very readable.
I know I don't do the greatest book quotes. It's a good book, I liked it.
I don't know, that might get enough people's attention. Well, this guy seems to like it, and he said so objectively. Not a lot of people say such an objective statement.
Yeah.
Maybe it's so bold, I'll have to give it a try.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to talk about this?
Yes, I made something. I've been working on it for the last couple of weeks. It didn't take a couple of weeks to do, not the current version. I have a random fiction genres table.
Yeah. Because
it occurred to me that we have a decent number of genres, and... you almost don't see a single genre film anymore. It's all a mingling. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's like ingredients in a recipe. Mm-hmm. You don't use just butter to make something.
Yeah.
Butter's just one of the many ingredients, and depending on how you blend it, how you work it together, hey, look, you made cookies.
So your intent with this is that you would roll a die, maybe twice, and sort of get two random genres?
If you think you're good enough at it, roll 3 times and mingle it as you want. First one is the predominant one, the second one is the genre type, and the third one is where it has sprinklings thereof.
Oh, cool. So do you want to attempt a roll of like maybe 2 or 3?
See, I figured this would be nice because they have all the people for the NaNoWriMo that comes up every year saying, oh, I would like to try, but I just don't know what sort of thing to work with, don't know what to write about. And so I came up with something and said, okay, you're going to write about this genre, come up with an idea, and then at least that way with the focus, because let's face it, sometimes when you can do everything, the hardest thing to do is anything.
Right.
You're paralyzed by possibility.
Yeah, you got it.
So this way, now I did want to have it for like subgenres going on in there, but I had so much problem trying not to overlap in between them.
Okay, yeah.
But maybe I'll be able to work it up, as I slowly come back to it time and again. But we got a nice little soundboard here so you can hear the proper rolling of the dice.
Here we go.
We have a 3. What do we have for a genre?
Number 3. Shall I read it out?
Go for it.
Genre number 3, crime. Whodunit and why? Whether from the perspective of the criminal or the one trying to bring them to justice, this genre tends to focus on the personality of someone willing to break the law as much as it does the actual events. Crime.
Okay, and let's mix that in with the second one, because let's face it, crime is good, but without action, it's basically reading a forensic report.
Yes.
So let's see, what else do we get? Come on.
What if you rolled the same thing twice?
Oh, well, in that case, it's like double crime. It's just
double
pure
crime.
Oh,
man. That sounds like a good premise. The double crime.
Well, there you go. Just commit 2 crimes at once. I got a 10. What do we have for that?
The 10th one, science fiction, classic, of course. While fantasy uses the power of belief and the unknown to break the laws of reality, science fiction harnesses the power of scientific understanding to make the cosmos obey the demands of humanity. Despite this, the author usually finds themselves doing a lot of background research to ensure their vision of technology does not get made obsolete by the march of progress. But as always, a good story trumps a real fact. Very good. Science fiction.
So it's a sci-fi crime story we're going for.
Well, yeah, we've seen those before.
No.
I think it would be very cool.
What does cause an interesting thing, because they're just coming to mind, is in sci-fi, people have like the disintegrator rays, and it's just dust.
Yeah.
How much forensic evidence do you get off that? Can you get DNA out of like the dust left over from a disintegration ray?
That question is worth a novel right there.
Dang straight. And that's what, is you just combine them together, ask yourself a question, make a story around that. Do you want to give it a try, Josh?
Shall we? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Rolling a nice soundboard here.
Alright, here we go. Roll number 1, we got a 6.
Horror. What makes you afraid? If the author is doing their job, then they know. And they'll tell you a tale that will scare, frighten, and then shock you out of the room. Suspense is paramount in this genre, cultivating scenes like a gardener with a prize-winning rose. So you've got horror as one of your main themes.
Okay, we got a horror story, and the other half is 4.
Fantasy. A wizard did it.
Horror fantasy, very good.
Yes, that's what they call dark fiction.
Yeah.
Yes, this genre ranges from the grim and gritty streets of near-realistic low fantasy to the stratospheric airships that accompany high fantasy. If nobody's weapon glows or becomes encloaked in fire, then the plot hasn't picked up.
So, yeah, horror and fantasy, basically horror can be fantasy, or almost has to be. I guess it can be realistic horror.
Well, I think one of the best examples of horror and fantasy combined would be the Ravenloft setting in D&D.
Oh, of course, yeah, Ravenloft is horror fantasy. Yeah.
So, yes, you could have, dark necromancers wandering around the real world. That'd be a low fantasy with high horror.
Yeah, and vampires are pretty much, by definition, horror fantasy. Although
I must note, in my research, they have a huge prominence in the romance genre these days.
Oh, I see.
So if you go with, you roll 3 times, and if you had gotten number 9 to get romance, then congratulations, you could have made a nice, more realistic version of the Twilight stuff, where he's a lot more predatory instead of a sparkle fairy.
Oh, that sounds fun. Although, if he's more predatory, wouldn't he just eat her in the first chapter, and then be like, oh, the rest of the book is... I guess he's...
New lady every chapter.
Oh, that's kind of actually not a bad idea.
No, see, that's how you get a full novel going. You get a bunch of people to write the one-chapter short stories. You agree on the main character, and then every chapter it's a new victim.
I like that.
Yeah, that's not bad. But actually, it might not be bad for the NaNoWriMo, people who can't, for whatever reason, get the whole novel in. No, I'm just asking you to write one chapter. Here's the protagonist. He's not a good protagonist, but there you go. Boom, shoot for the one chapter, we'll work it all together, we get enough pages at the end, we're calling that our novel.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know. I quite like that.
So Will, I think, do you want to post this up, like along with the episode, like sort of on the blog page or something like that?
Give me just a wee bit of time.
Or I could.
Okay, we'll put this up as a basic. I am still trying to work on the subgenre stuff.
Okay, so there's more to do. Okay, so that's a teaser then.
Well, I did have some nice historical stuff, and I was working with like country western stuff. Unfortunately, I broke over into sci-fi with like its space opera and the space western sort of
you
thing.
You say unfortunately, isn't that?
Well, I would like to try and keep the genres, the subgenres, out of the toes of the other ones, so that way you can combine. So that, I've got a space western with a like a gothic horror, in which case you'd have out in the Wild West cult of mummy worshippers has got the mummy in there. And yeah, and that's causing the horror out there. But you don't have like a lot of guns to fight it, man. You just got a 6-shooter at best. Can you outdraw the undead? And even if you can, would it matter? What happens when all of a sudden your pistols and your fast draw mean nothing? That's good horror there.
Yeah.
Good horror takes away from the ability. You feel powerless. So there we go. So, so I suppose we can put up the basic one, and if I can figure out enough separate subgenres so as not to tread on toes, we can go for the advanced table.
Very cool. Okay, well, yeah, look for that and more things on the blog. I'll maybe take this moment to remind our listeners that they can email us at thesimulationist@gmail.com. The website is thesimulationist.com, and basically that redirects to a Blogspot website, which we will post show notes and things like this on. And also you can visit us on Facebook and on YouTube and anywhere else you can find.
Yeah, we can put documents up on Facebook, right? It should be able to put there.
Yes, I believe that's
all right. I think that's another way to work it.
Yeah.
So, yes. So what do you think about the concept of the mingling of genres? Like, do you lament the fact that there's no, like, pure horror thing without it going into sci-fi or supernatural?
I think I celebrate that fact. I think I like the complicated world that we live in. I guess it does make things hard to define sometimes.
That said, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I have had some people mention, and not perhaps incorrectly, that genres are a limitation. When you start thinking in the terms of genres, you self-confine, and then you diminish what you can do. If you just have a story you want to write and you write it, and then people later on put it in a genre, well, okay, whatever, that's what you wanted to do. I just wanted to tell the story.
Are there any sports that like have no out of bounds? I'm trying to maybe golf, because it has. Well,
no, you actually do have out of bounds, because that's like a 2-stroke penalty.
Officially, okay.
Yeah.
Because are there any sports where there's a defined course, but technically if you go outside of that, it's still in play?
I believe some versions of dodgeball have no out of bounds. Except for you're in the enemy territory on the other side, that's considered out of bounds that way. But that just makes it easier for them to hit you, and I do believe if you hit someone and you're in their side, they don't get out. So it just makes you a better target. I guess.
Well. In tennis, you're allowed to walk outside, like you're allowed to step outside the boundaries, right? It's just the ball that has to go down there.
Well, that's the thing. I think with a lot of sports, the boundaries is a huge part of it. That said, look for it to wind up dissolving when we learn how to harness gravity to ourselves and come up with like floating little like mini planets like that little prince used to live on.
That's cool. They must have. I bet the guys on the guys and girls on the International Space Station, they must play interesting sports. I don't know if they play ping pong? I think
they have some stuff, but I don't know how actively they pursue it, because any which way they reach, they wind up getting into instrumentation.
That's true, but I mean, they have to entertain themselves. So I'll have to look it up and see if they play sports.
That's why they make up songs on their guitars and play it for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Don't forget, man, ISS with Chris Hadfield and the Bare Naked Ladies. It's a great song. Look it up.
Yeah, I heard that one. Yeah. Our list. Maybe I'll put a link to it. It's probably on YouTube, I guess. So.
It is on YouTube. It's part of the CBC Radio 3 stuff. Very nicely done. They had to wind up synchronizing it because he's so far out there, it caused a delay.
There we go. Yay.
It all comes full circle.
Yay, Einstein.
Yay, finite speeds of transmission. So far, we're still working on it.
Sure.
There's going to be someone who's trying to find out a way to send information faster than the speed of light. And when we can do that, then maybe we'll have a better system of telecommunications. And heck, for all we know, if we can get it to be instantaneous throughout almost any distance, then all we have to do is just start sending off like communications probes into like every star we see. Eventually it'll get there, and then we can have a conversation with aliens.
Well,
it's the next best thing to being there. If you can't get there, overnight, at least you can talk to them quickly. And what if there are like several types of aliens out there? They all have their own internets, and then we all hook up the information systems together, and then we get a net of internets between the various alien races.
This would be like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
The Meganet. Das Ubernet. That's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm not that optimistic about faster than light communication, but
I think there's some very fun potentials.
Sure, why not hope?
Well, if you can't get to the planet, at least you can send your voice there at a decent rate. Once it gets there, once it's there, it's there. Congratulations. You just keep going. Yeah. Just keep it in orbit around a planet there and see if anybody picks up your signal. The only downside to actually hooking up the internet, though, is I do believe about 2/3 of our internet is pornographic content. And so either we would look like the ghetto slum part of the internet to the other alien races, or their internet would be similar, and I don't know if I want to see alien pornography.
I do.
I admit I would be intrigued at the concepts of it as a biologist. That said, I don't really want to see if like some kinks wind up being universal.
But like, imagine
truly universal.
What if ants had an internet and or
technically they have a biological equivalency in their saliva.
I don't know if ants is the best because I don't know how sexually active they are. But
only the queen and princesses are. No, the drones. Pretty much every ant you see in a colony is a female but sterile.
Okay,
they get their reproductive success from the queen. And her success is so overwhelming, it makes up for their own sterility. Otherwise, the whole eusocial construct falls apart for ants.
Okay, there we go. What if grasshoppers had porn?
I bet you it'd be leg-based stuff. Or maybe just auditory. You know, it's like, oh yeah, listen to that chirp chirp. Oh yeah. Oh
now,
yeah.
Like, what would we think of it? Like, would we be like, oh, how they're so depraved, all they think about is mating?
Well, to be fair, I mean, as a creature with very little brain capacity, mating should occupy a significant portion of it.
Yeah, so don't you think aliens would say that about us? They're like, oh, of course they should be thinking about, they should have all this porn because...
I mean, look at them. They're not even, half, energy-based. They're completely physical.
Exactly.
So, okay, maybe that makes a bit of sense then.
What kind of porn would, aliens with who are, partly energy? Can you imagine what that... This is a family podcast, so maybe we shouldn't go there.
Look at that, they're converting from 120 to 220 volts. Oh my god, that is forbidden. All of a sudden, the AC adapters we sell here on Earth become just the kinkiest thing in the cosmos.
I like the thought that, and then they ban depictions of it. It's censored. It's kids can't buy electronics manuals.
You have to go into a store that's got all the windows marked off, and you can't see inside. Yeah, it's the hardware store in this case, but for the aliens, it's something else entirely. But here's the thing. Here's the weird thing with something like insects and all that is they don't have the personality of humanity. They are very to the point. Mm-hmm. Most animals are very to the point. And so it becomes a thing whereby some species will give, mating in exchange for resources.
Yeah.
So there's a thing like, I have presented food, now will you eat the food, we shall mate. And that's how it goes for that insect species.
Yeah.
So for them, pornography would basically be like, oh my god, look at the size of the food hoard around this male. That is sexy. So maybe it winds up being okay in the fact that it just doesn't work with humanity. It's like, oh, okay, So if I was to open up my fridge door, that would be sexy for you? And it just doesn't. It just doesn't
I don't know.
mesh.
In some cases, if I'm hungry enough, yeah, a fridge.
You ask a starving student about that, over in college, university. Okay, yeah, maybe. But by and large, it just doesn't, have any basis for us to perceive.
Yeah, it's not comparable. So I'm imagining that aliens might be like that. They'd be like what they see as porn. We'd be like, that's just food. Or what we see as porn, they'd be like, why do you even find that?
I mean, this is only a naked lady. She hasn't even taken off her skin or anything. How can you qualify this as pornography? She hasn't transcended to an ethereal being. It's just nothing. It's just basically like socks.
Or can you imagine, like, if aliens are like a million years of evolution of like after getting technology, so they like get test tubes down to a science. So they breed through test tubes. So they would find like laboratory equipment sexy.
Well, that's the thing is there's always the taboo in there. So the actual show of real mating. Oh my goodness, it's so wrong and so crude and inefficient.
But
on the other hand, figure it this way: if they've been around for a million years and they have technology, tech age plus. Maybe they've come up with all possible types of pornography. They're not creating anything new. It's like, well, no, anything you create is just a reproduction of something else that's in a huge, vast, storage files.
I like that
nobody admits to keeping.
For the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy could have like a race of aliens that their one sole purpose of existence was to find every kind of porn.
Well, that's the thing is, according to some people, everything can qualify. Somebody's going to get turned on by it.
It's Rule 34 of the Internet.
Well, it's not just that. It's there are some people that say that anything can become a kink, so everything. Like our podcast, apparently if you find enough people eventually, the podcast will turn someone on.
Oh, hey, I bet you're listening right now, too.
Well, I'm taken, so you're going to have to send all your disturbing emails to Josh on that one. That's, I'm a no-go zone on that.
Well, I'll take disturbing emails. Yeah.
If nothing else, it's an interesting evening, just trying to figure out, okay, were they typing this in haste, or are they just truly crazy? Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, and it's fun to play the little games in life.
But we also had a main topic. Should we move on to that?
Yeah, how much time left we got?
Yeah, we never done 24 or 25 minutes.
Okay, I think it's enough to at least cover the basics for it. I've noticed in some of the stuff I've read, when a character progresses, and grows as a character, it seems as though there's no ability to backslide. Marty McFly, for instance, you call him a chicken and he'll do anything. He'll do any stupid thing. Car races, bets, dares, he'll take it all on, just to prove he ain't no chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody calls him a chicken. And by the end of the third movie, he's learned the folly of his actions, and he's proven that, he's averted a less than stellar history. He does get to grow up and become an actual rock star. Hooray! And because he's grown as a character, someone calling him a chicken doesn't faze him. He knows the bigger picture. And so, it works for him. He's 16 years old, 17 years old, I believe.
Right.
But it seems, for a lot of people, especially grown characters, it's not that easy. You don't just go to Alcoholics Anonymous, have your 12 steps, and then you're cured of wanting to drink alcohol. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, they sort of always struggle with it, I guess.
The struggle might get less as time goes on, but it's there and it's prominent, and nobody, is expected to go there and, it'll be perfect. You'll never touch a drop of alcohol ever again. There's some backsliding, and you got to prepare for that, and it becomes a thing, and you got to watch out for that. And that when you do backslide, you don't, say to yourself, "It's the end of the world. I failed once. I'll never be, truly sober ever again. I've tarnished myself." You say you pick yourself back up in it, and you start again. Okay. And I think in a lot of stories, with the protagonist, or antagonist, or whichever one is growing at the time,
right.
They really do a disservice to, and now I'm immune to this effect. It's no, you're struggling for it. You're winning, and that's where the proof is, and that you're progressing. Is you're no longer losing to your character flaw. You're winning against it. That's how you grow, but you're still struggling, and that depiction of the struggling makes the character so much more real than, and then he learned his lesson, and nothing was wrong with him regarding this ever again.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was making a point earlier about how this sort of works a little bit differently with the younger characters as opposed to the older characters, because the stories about young people is about them learning, and sometimes all it takes is, you know, a new fact or a new piece of information. Oh, I don't have to actually respond every time someone says I'm a chicken. Yeah, I guess that's the only piece of information I needed was the fact that this was not necessary.
Or taking stupid risks leads to bad ends.
Yeah, something like that. So.
And that's enough for Marty McFly to learn and progress as a character, and it works for him. That said, I will put a caveat. It doesn't always work for young fictional character things where it's like a TV show, because you'll see them like fighting the same thing. I believe Homer has fixed his booze addiction a few times, and Bart's been set straight almost maybe a half dozen at this point. And so because they're seen as an eternal character, they can't progress. They can't become something bigger or different or something else, because then they're no longer the person people know. Yeah. So you can have those stories of them learning, oh, I've learned the value of respecting my friends. And then next week they're, you know, just ignoring them and disrespecting them. Same as ever. That's just how it goes. And so for them, the caveat is that depending whether it's an actual progressing character versus a static character, even kids can't grow out on that one.
Well, I like Community does this. It's funny because Community will have like the main character might, like Jeff, he might like learn a lesson about not taking his friends for granted, and at the end of the show, he purposely says, "Well, I'm not going to learn from this," or I'm just going to take them for granted again," or whatever. Because he's very, and that show is fun because it's kind of direct with like
it acknowledges it's saying, "Oh, we might have to come back to the story again in a future, you know, season, you know, and do a similar sort of style." And so we're just going to make sure we haven't closed any doors behind us.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing about also the like moralizing TV, that like some of the not so good kind is that it'll be like a very short incident in a person's life. It's like, oh well, you know, it turned out better when I was nice to my friends or respected them or didn't take them for granted or something, and therefore for the rest of my life I'm going to behave this way. Well, maybe not.
Well, and that's the thing is if you can show the backsliding, it works. If, for instance, in The Simpsons, Bart, you know, you show him backsliding into being the rebellious youngster,
like when the teacher's bending over with her butt in the air,
and he's got the slingshot.
He wants to shoot her.
Exactly, that worked, and that's set for a wonderful scene that you can remember.
Yeah,
because you just did, and you've proven that.
Yes.
And that's the thing is that's the grist. That's where you show actual true character, is in the fight, in the growth. And it just seems like it's a horrible disservice to show that it's like, yes, okay, I've learned, and then I'm completely different. I'm completely immune to this one flaw in my personality because it's being exercised, which might be interesting if you're doing it, you know, as just a short series. Because let's face it, with Marty McFly, he had 3 movies, so that's about 6 hours to tell it in. You really don't have a lot for the backsliding to show up and for people to get that. So in stuff like movies, it's more of an allowance on that. All you have to show is that yes, they've proven themselves once, and then I guess someone writing fan fiction can show the backsliding later on, but he still winds up, you know, ultimately for the better.
Yeah. But it's also kind of fun for the audience too. If the audience is like in on a couple of versions, it's like the first time the character does something stupid and he's like, oh well, you know, I did this stupid thing. I shouldn't have responded when the bully was taunting me.
Or
and
it could be even worse than that. It could be, well, you know what? At least I responded. At least I proved I wasn't chicken.
Yeah, something like that. But the audience kind of sees and learns a lesson about it.
Well, that's the thing is you can have it in stages. You know, he does the bad consequences, but at least I proved I wasn't a chicken. Then it happens again later, and it could be like, but I feel bad because I really fell into that trap again. And then later on, it's like he goes the right path and finally overcomes the thing. I don't care if you call me a chicken.
Yeah, and I like that the audience can come along with that, and the audience can be like kind of yelling at the screen, like maybe the second time around. The audience sort of
No, Marty, no,
like,
don't go on the road race. This is what hurts your hand and prevents you from becoming a rock star.
And then he does it, and the audience is like, no. But then, later on, he redeems himself. The audience is like, finally, he learned something.
So yeah, I can definitely understand that. You don't need to show it unless that's like the crux of a story. For some people, you can write a wonderful movie script based on just a person trying to overcome nicotine addiction, alcohol addiction, drug abuse. It's all work. That's a wonderful area that's Oscar Gold territory right there, man.
Yeah. And I suppose, if they don't learn at the end, there's always the audience needs some kind of form of release,
closure,
like
closure and release sort of thing.
So if they don't learn a lesson, if you can make a joke about it or say, I didn't learn anything, at least the audience can laugh, or they can...
Well, that's the thing is, in the end, the guy could, wake up after a horrible bender and, he succumbed to the lures of alcohol once again. But you can end it with him just picking himself up, cleaning himself off, and telling himself in the mirror, day one again. And that way they know it's like it's still a struggle for him, but he's not quitting. And there's where it is. That's where he's learned. He's learned the resilience that will eventually get him through. You don't need to show it for the next 10 years as he slowly, goes on that occasional bender.
Write another novel or make another movie.
But you can, just so long as you give that point there that, yes, he has officially become slightly better, somewhat different. He's learned at least the tool that will take him there. That's all that it really needs to be done. People prefer a bigger payoff, but,
No, and that I think that can leave an audience at least somewhat satisfied. It's like we tied up the story as much as we could, but we can't follow this guy the rest of his life.
Not without it becoming the Truman Show.
Yeah.
But I think it works for people who are paying attention even better than the positive ending. Like, okay, yes, he's proven himself good, because let's face it, almost everybody out there is a flawed character in some way or another.
Almost everybody? Except me, of course.
Well, I'm sure there's people out there actively working on becoming the best human being they can be, and they're making much more progress than anyone else because they're actually trying. So I'll give them conditional perfect character status because they're working their way there, and as long as you're actively building your way that way, I'll grant it to you. But by and large, we're all flawed characters in our own stories.
Yeah.
And so as flawed characters, we get a better sense of the guy picking himself up, starting over again, and trying it once more. Mm-hmm. Because we know that, we've tried before. Everyone's tried something and they failed. Some people fail at diets. Some people fail at learning, musical instruments, drawing or coding. But you know what? If they he slid himself, but he picked himself up and he kept on trying. He showed the resilience. I can be like that too. I just have to pick myself up and keep trying. And so they can get a better sense of connection to the character, because it's like, no, we're not so far apart. We're not perfect. We don't just suddenly overcome and become better. We just keep trying until we do it.
Well, I guess, that person, I don't know what they've really learned. It's not that somebody has to learn something in a story, but often that's part of the story.
Well, that's the thing is they set out to learn, how to resist the lures of alcohol, and they don't learn that, but instead they learn how to pick themselves up and try again, so that even if they won't get it by the end of the movie, they will later on, because they've learned that lesson that comes before, actually going clean forever, and that might just be a more important lesson, because once you've got that under your belt, its success is almost guaranteed, barring tragic consequences.
Well, there's a positive half, but also it's a little bit of a downer in that. No, you just got. There's no easy answer. It's just hard work. It's like.
But that's what it is a lot of times in reality. It doesn't tend to be just simple things like if a person has cancer, and we figure it's benign. We had the surgery. It's out of you now. It's not just and then you're free of cancer. There's a chance of having it to come back, and the chance is so much percentage every year. They wind up reducing it to a 50% chance over 5 years of it coming back, but it's really X amount of chance per year where they check it out. And so it's not just a simple, binary, free versus fail. And so I think a more accurate reflection of this makes for a better story. It's not so clean cut, not all the time.
Yeah.
You don't want to tell that for every story. I mean,
Yeah.
with kids' stories, you don't necessarily always want the grim and gritty ending. I mean, you don't want to be reading to your kid, "Are you my mother?" And in the end, despite the fact he's looked and looked and looked, he never does find his mother. But he keeps on searching, knowing that as long as he can determine the difference between his mother and a bird or a rooster or a cat or a dog or a cow, he'll find the mother eventually.
Well, I suppose, you need some stories to actually have that payoff at the end. Otherwise, the stories that don't have a payoff, it's like, well, I guess you never end. But if some stories have happy endings, then it's like, oh, okay, well, sort of these other stories taught me that if you persevere, you'll find what you're looking for, even if it's not part of your main quest.
Well, see, that's the thing. Is effectively it's the Grail quest. It's not about where you go. It's about actively trying to search for that thing. Mm-hmm. That's what it really means. That's your personal Grail quest. It doesn't matter if you ever find it. It's the fact that you tried that really counts.
Yeah, but the only reason you try is because you've heard of people trying before and succeeding.
Well, except for the actual Grail quest, because nobody succeeded until the very end, and then, we found it, nobody needs to keep searching.
Well,
it was here.
Let's see. I guess what I'm trying to say, though, is
Waldo.
Not the Grail itself, but like the knight who goes off to look for the Grail, he's heard of other heroes who go off after other relics and find them and bring them back. And, hey, the local church has, a piece of the True Cross in it that somebody went and quested for. So, sort of like you need examples of people who have succeeded in order to believe that success is possible.
Okay, yes, I can see that. That said, in the Wheel of Time series, they have, like, the Hunt for the Horn. There's a horn that, when blown, is apparently able to summon all the dead heroes from history back to fight on the side of goodness. Mm-hmm. And you have people who go out hunting for it, and they have, like, it's like, we're declaring an official hunt for the horn, and people will come from all the neighboring countries. They'll all get together, swear the oath to hunt for the horn. And what happens is, like, up until the point of the book, no one's ever found the horn, but it's a bunch of stories of what people do on their search for the horn. And he went to these lands and searched, and he discovered the nasty Trollocs that infested and were threatening the town. And while he never found the horn, he saved the day. He saved the lives of the villagers in the town. And, and so it becomes that. And you have all these guys going out and, telling the songs about these heroes in the taverns at night while people are drinking their sorrows away. No one found the horn. Technically, no one, succeeds in these sorts of stories. Mm-hmm. But it's what they do on the way that marks it worthy of a story.
All right. Yeah. I'll take that.
So it can be. I suppose it can even be like a sub, like genre of storytelling in itself. The Grail quest, where you don't actually find what you're looking for. It's what you do on the way that makes the actual story.
Yeah.
And perhaps, it's even a better, realistic story than, and then the heroes vanquished evil for all time. It's like, no, they never even found where evil was hiding in the sealed can. But they did this on the way, and they did that, and they proved their mettle as a character this way. And then they just, at the end of the book, and then they rode off into the sunset, searching for their ultimate, destiny.
Well, did you ever read Don Quixote?
It's on the list of things I would like to read. There's a lot I'd like to read for classical reading.
Because he's I think he's almost prototypical of the guy who goes on an impossible quest, because basically his antagonist doesn't even exist.
Yeah, that's right. He's, like fencing with windmills.
Yeah, that's one of the things. So
by the way, does the book actually mention, like, the owners of the windmills? Do they get cheesed off at him for doing this? Does he break anything and then just say, I vanquished a dragon, and marches off, and they ready to just whip a stone at the back of his head?
I don't remember if he encountered the actual owners, but it's not far from that area in the book where he actually encounters just some random people, just people walking down the road, and he imagines that they're someone he has to confront and fight.
Oh, so that's them. The last thing somebody needs. I gotta go from, town A to town B, and along the way some guy comes, he's yelling stuff I don't even know. I've never seen this guy before. Yeah. And then he just, thinks he's won the argument and walks off, all proud of himself. Like, I don't need this, man. I gotta be at the Best Western in another 2 hours or I'm losing my bed.
Yeah, well, to be honest, like if you walk in downtown Victoria or downtown Vancouver or downtown a lot of different cities, you will encounter people who are like Don Quixote, who think that something is going on that actually isn't. And it's sad, but it's true.
Well, it's not just that. I remember one or times or two up in Prince George at the midnight screening for the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And it'd be all these people dressed up, and then, oh my goodness, it attracted some people out, and they'd be just chatting with you like they'd known you, and they'd be mentioning stuff like, oh, do you remember the time this happened to us? It's like, I've never seen you before. I just want to watch the movie and throw rice and bread at the screen at the right time. Please don't.
Were you dressed up? Or?
My brother Adam was. He managed to borrow a wheelchair, or rent a wheelchair, however the term was. I think it was rent the wheelchair, yeah. And so he was the doctor that was wheelchair bound in that one. Unfortunately, everyone thought he actually was in the wheelchair, and so we wound up getting first seat and going in there and getting a spot. Because I was the one wheeling him in there, so yeah. We didn't. Well, that's the thing is, once they said, "Okay, you go to the head of the line and you go first," we realized what was going on, but we didn't want to correct them because it's like, "Oh, but they're trying so nice to make sure." And
it's just my costume.
Yeah, we don't want to seem like we're like, like bad people. We'll just thank you for the whole thing, and then we'll just, Adam, don't stand up. I'll get you whatever you need. You want popcorn? I'm getting it for you. Just stay here.
Brilliant costume. Get your brother to
go to the stand, get you the fresh poppy. Well, I mean. You don't want to dissuade anybody from doing the good that they're doing. It's like, okay, yes, you get preferential seating because you're disabled. We'll make sure you can get the spot, and if you're wheeling him, you get the seat next to him. We want to make sure that all works out.
And I suppose it ruins it for actual disabled people. If wait a minute, someone was here last weekend, they weren't really disabled. I'm not letting you.
Well, that's the thing is we also gave a quick check around to make sure there was no one else like we were taking an actual like handicapped person's spot because there is just no shade of red deep enough to describe how embarrassed we would have been. But yeah, and so we wind up sitting there, and then there's people. It was standing room there, in the theater, and so there was people just chatting with us and doing stuff like they had known us and like we had known them. Sometimes it's nice, sometimes that works out, but these were just like weird people, and it's like. Kind of like Don Quixote's, where they have to say this, they have to do it, even if we're not really the person. We're apparently some sort of imaginary surrogate. Mm-hmm. C'est la vie.
Unless sometimes they might just be messing with you.
We had that occur to us as an idea, but no, if they were messing with our heads, they were doing a very good job of it because there was no tells. They were giving nothing away. It was legitimate crazy or catharsis maybe at the best, saying the whole stuff.
So if our listeners happen to recognize us in public, I don't think there are too many pictures of us.
Not that we're hiding ourselves or anything.
But yeah, if you do happen to recognize us, I guess introduce yourself and let us know.
Like a proper introduction can do so much for. The amount of conversations I've had over the years where somebody comes in halfway through, they're thinking something in their head, and then they say out like something, and then it's like, oh, you're trying to come in halfway through a conversation that you weren't previously a part of, so, bring a person up to speed when you start a conversation.
But after that, we'll be happy to talk to you and sign things for you.
Well, we'll do what we can, if you catch us at work, sometimes we're pressed for time, we have
real jobs too, that's true.
Or, at least jobs. I don't know how real they are. I mean,
They pay money.
Yeah, they pay money, so they are real in that sense, which is maybe the most important sense.
Yeah, that's basically my criteria.
I would like to be able to live a life where I'm just donating my time, but I haven't won that lottery yet, so it's not yet happening.
Yeah, still playing, still working, still waiting.
It's a 13.1 million odds against me, but I'll still try it every once in a while because the odds are pretty slim every ticket you buy, but they're even worse when you don't buy a ticket. That's infinity to zero. Those are pretty bad odds.
Yeah.
So that might be a topic for another day, working with numbers and statistics.
Yeah. More thoughts on character progression?
Don't confuse like moral progression with character progression, because evil people are fun to write about. They have more grist that authors tend to be able to grab onto. And so having a story of the villager who becomes a hero, that's where their character progression goes up in this. They become the truly heroic person. That's one thing. But it's just as fun a story for the villager who winds up becoming the evil overlord. Mm-hmm. I know the Gormenghast series effectively starts out that way. It focuses later on with the main character Titus, but if you watch the movie that they made a few years back, it's really about the character Steerpike, who starts off as just a nobody and winds up ascending to the highest ranks of the nobility, effectively.
And he's a bad guy, or
well, in this sort of land, to progress, you have to be a bad person.
Yeah. Okay.
Blackmail, poison, betrayal, theft. Some attempts at seduction, but that never really works out very well.
Okay.
So yeah, he's a very good character, and even though he's like really, really just a bad guy, especially towards the end, you almost root for him because you can see the progression. You can see him growing as a person, and that, in some senses, something people like to latch on to.
Well, villains are more interesting because they come with conflict. They bring their own conflict to the table, whereas heroes sort of have to react to something bad happening.
There's very few proactive heroes, because then they just wind up looking like a psychotic.
Then they're Don Quixote out there looking for some kind of quest.
Or it just could be he looked like he was a mugger, so I beat him up and I hung him upside down by rope in the alley.
Well, that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Kind of interesting, but then it's not very heroic. Yeah.
And which is
psychotic
our point
anti-hero.
About villains being more interesting.
Don't get me wrong, you could write a story about that very easily, the progression of I want to do good, and then taking it to a proactive stance, and then the fallout that comes from that. That's a wonderful script.
Well, I think there's some vigilante stories like that, sort of.
I think you could definitely work with that. I think it's been done before with, didn't Tom Cruise have a movie about that? About being able to predict future crime? I think he might.
Yeah,
I never actually got a chance to see that, though.
Yeah, I can't remember that.
I know there's been a few stories about future crime prediction and that sort of stuff, but an actual just a person, not I've got a near omniscient machine who can effectively predict the future based on past experiences. Just one guy saying I'm going to make this as good a place, that causes all sorts of tension. You can be the most well-intentioned person, but the conflict that comes in with that—that's a good story there.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at least a potential for a good story. Never underestimate the power of someone who doesn't know how to cultivate a story correctly and butchering even the best potential.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Which itself might make for an interesting short story.
A story about it.
A story about an author who cannot write the story he wants. It keeps up critically failing it.
Well, you know how there's a certain, I guess it's almost its own genre of story in which the character discovers that they're in a story. I think Adaptation was
Yes, Will Ferrell had a movie about that.
Another one, Will Ferrell was in it. But and I guess there's points where the character is like, what, this is badly written, but imagine a story like that, only
John
the writer's
Candy
really
had one
bad.
of that too. He wound up in his own soap opera.
Oh, yeah.
And whatever he writes on the typewriter happens, and he was drinking, and he winds up, going about the party, and the misspelling came in, and people come in, and they've got deer with them, and they're taking them into the back, and he said, no, it was a typo, they're supposed to bring in more beer. So, I can't remember the name of that one. It was a pretty good movie, though. But, it's a wonderful topic for any movie. I think it lends itself to some good visual aids. The ability to write there's a few nice short stories about being able to make edit the world to your fashion according to what you type on the typewriter.
Or like Futurama, where Fry, the brain aliens come down and they make everyone stupid, and Fry has to write a book
wherein he wins.
Wherein he wins against the brain aliens.
Now I shall leave for no reason.
That's the one.
Yes.
For no reason.
Well, let's face it, Fred doesn't spell very well.
Yeah, exactly.
As he proves.
So that's about 90 minutes of conversation that we've had. I hope that our listeners have enjoyed it. Do you have any more thoughts?
If you guys ever do write a story based on our ideas, send it to us. I'd love to read it. Yeah, you're welcome to the concepts that we've thrown out there. We would very much appreciate hearing about you and about it. And it strikes me as the concept of the author who tries to write the story and winds up having it always go wrong on him might be a nice way to have a collection of short stories with interesting twists and fall apart. It'd start off with stereotypical and then wind up going bad because the author's, doesn't doing it right. And so every chapter starts with a preface of, the author trying again, and this is a story, this is my intent, and it all goes awry.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Actually, I don't think it becomes a collection of short stories. It almost works as an anthology that way, I believe.
I suppose, or it even becomes the tale of the writer or the tale of the tale teller.
And that way, it doesn't really matter what story it is. It's like, well, I usually don't read true crime stories or true crime attempts. And it winds up he's doing he's trying to write a nice historical thing, a character, he's researched the character in the back, and he's going for historical proper tale, and all of a sudden it gets away from him. The character's doing stuff he's not supposed to do, he never really did in history. Next thing he does, he shoots Hitler, and all of a sudden he starts writing alternate history fiction. It's like, oh, it was supposed to be true historical.
Yeah.
The character got away from me. What can I do?
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's see. I've been Josh Trelevin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby. We hope we gave you a bunch of decent ideas for fun stories, if nothing else.
And send us money.